sincerity in worshipping Allah?
The question was, how can I keep my sincerity when worshipping Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? Sincerity, it is the matter that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created us for. Allah created us to be sincere. وهي جل وعلا, He says, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. That it is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala who created death and life to test you. Who amongst you is going to have the best deeds? Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad rahmatullahi alayhi, he says, أحسن عملا, it is أخلصه وأصوبه. It is the most sincere deed in accordance to the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So that is what you're being tested on, how sincere you are. And when we hear لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, to test you, a test indicates that it's not going to be easy. That is going to be something that you have to constantly be conscious of, aware of, and that you have to always renew. And that's why some of the Salaf of the past, they would say that the most difficult matter that I found difficult to fix and to treat, it was my intention because it keeps flipping on me. Right? Okay. Why is sincerity difficult? Because sincerity, it is that when you are doing a deed, you are not getting any benefit from it at all. There's no benefit that you're getting out of it. There's no haddun nafs. No haddun nafs. That the soul normally desires something in return for what they do. When you do something, the human being always desires something in return. That's the nature of the human being. Either he wants praise, or he wants wealth, or he wants worldly gain, or status, or whatever it may be. Right? But when you're sincere, you're saying that this deed, I'm doing it for Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and I don't want any of the haddun nafs. It's completely free from that. Right? That's why the soul finds it difficult, because the soul is used to having something in return. And that's why the individual needs to constantly ask himself, why am I doing this? That question, before you do anything, you ask yourself, why? What am I trying to get out of this? If the answer is that I'm trying to get the pleasure of Allah and the reward of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then you are sincere. But if the answer is that you're trying to get other than that, then fix the intention immediately before it's too late. Because what matters is not necessarily how you start a deed, but it's about how you end it. If you started it insincere, but you end it with sincerity, Allah will accept it, inshaAllah ta'ala, and that lack of sincerity will perhaps only reduce some of the reward, but the deed, inshaAllah, Allah will accept it if you're sincere. But if there's no sincerity from beginning to end, or you started with sincerity, and you ended with no sincerity, Allah will not accept that deed. So you must fight against that nafs. And from the matters the ulama they mention, it is that you do the same amount of deeds that you do in public, you do it in private. So that if you're not sure about what I did in public, was it for Allah, at least that which you did in private that only Allah knows about, that is more likely that you're going to be sincere. And on top of that, it is essential that you ask Allah to grant sincerity. That you ask Allah to help you in being sincere. And if you do so, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala help you. Allah. Do I choose or you choose?
Okay, Chef, one question regarding how do we instill yaqeen in our hearts regarding the ilm al-ghayb, because we are bombarded with a lot of doubts, and this has unfortunately led some people astray.
How do you instill yaqeen, certainty in your heart regarding the unseen, the world of the unseen? It's called the world of the unseen, right? You do not see it with the naked eye. But yet you believe in it with certainty. Interesting. We are sitting in this room, right? Do you see the oxygen that you breathe? You don't see it, but you believe there's oxygen. Why? Because you feel it. You feel it, right? You can't see the oxygen, but you feel it. You're inhaling, exhaling. Okay. You feel pain, right? You can't see pain, but you feel it. So you believe it exists, even though you don't see it with the eye. It's the world of the unseen, and you can't see pain, but you feel it, so therefore you believe it's there. Interesting. So even in human sense, when it comes to human capacity, we believe in things that we don't see in this world. But just because we feel it. Okay. There's more evidence of the world of the unseen than there is evidence for the pain that you feel. There's more evidence for the world of the unseen than there is for the oxygen that you breathe. There's more evidence for it. Why? Why is there more evidence? Because everything that surrounds you, everything that's around you, everything that you see and feel is proof of the world of the unseen. It's proof. Okay, just because you maybe feel there's oxygen, or you just feel that there's pain, so you believe that there's pain. Well, every single human being believes and feels, actually, before I even say believe, he feels that there's a world of the unseen and there's a creator. Every single one of us. We feel it, right? Because Allah created us with that feeling, which is the fitrah. That innate disposition, right? Why is that not enough for you to believe? When it's enough for you to feel pain and you believe. And it's enough for you to feel the oxygen so you believe it's there. Even though you can't see it. You feel in your heart that there's a creator. Every single child is born in that state. But what happens to that fitrah? That fitrah is clouded. It's clouded by certain matters that are external. Whether it is your society, whether it is your family, whether it is your surroundings, whether it is certain things that you're exposed to, whatever it may be, it clouds that fitrah, which reduces or makes that belief weaker. So you need to wake up that fitrah. That's one aspect. Secondly, Allah Ta'ala has given us evidences, proofs, right? They say that you need proof to believe, right? Allah Ta'ala has given us sufficient proof and evidence for us to believe. Allah Ta'ala sent to us messengers from Allah who are carrying the message of Allah, telling us and conveying to us the message of Allah. Okay. I haven't finished my answer, Sheikh. Okay. I have a long way to go. Be patient. طيب. Where was I? What's the last thing that I said?
Oh, messengers.
The messengers, yes. The messengers, they were sent to us by Allah Ta'ala, right? These messengers, the Prophet Muhammad as an example. The Prophet 40 years of his life, everyone was in agreement that he never ever lied. Never ever lied. Truthful, trustworthy. Even his enemies after he became a prophet, they said that he was truthful, trustworthy. Right? Everyone, Abu Sufyan, when he went to Hiraqil as a disbeliever, when he was asked to describe the Prophet, he said he's the most truthful amongst us, the most trustworthy amongst us. And the greatest praise that one can receive, it is the praise of your enemies, right? Your foes. Because they have every reason to dispraise you and insult you and call you that or say that which you are not, right? But Abu Sufyan said that he's the most truthful amongst us. Okay, the Prophet 40 years of his life, does it make sense that someone will be truthful, never lie for 40 years of his life, and then all of a sudden they get to the age of 40 and then they lie, but they say a big lie, I'm the messenger of Allah? It doesn't make sense logically, right? Okay, forget that. Then there are prophets and messengers, hundreds of prophets and messengers, thousands of prophets and messengers who are all telling you the same thing. And they all know for their character, their trustworthiness and their truthfulness, right? And many others narrating the same thing too. That's called multitude narrations. Multitude narrations, what do they indicate? They indicate that what has been narrated is a fact. It's as if you witnessed it. It's as if it's tangible evidence. You were there, present, right? Okay. How do you know your mother's your mother? What proof do you have your mum's your mum? Huh? What proof do you have your mum's your mum? Because she told you, huh? There's more proof regarding the world of the unseen. And there's more proof because of the multi generations we have regarding it than your mother being your mother. So if you disbelieve in that, then you are disbelieving in your mother being your mother. End of the matter. Huh? Does that make sense? So if you say, I don't believe in the world of the unseen, I don't believe in Allah Ta'ala, then you don't believe your mom's your mom. The last question I'm told. He had his hand up before. And I told him to put it down.
One question from the sisters group. My wife write me right now. When
Then
you
we'll
can
take
wait
2
1 more
questions.
minute, inshallah.
We'll take 2 questions. We'll take one from the sisters and we'll take one from the brothers. Yellow, we'll hear the sisters one. We'll come back to you, huh?
Well, you have to take one more because he was from the beginning.
Who? No, we'll take one more as well.
Yeah.
Before anyone gets angry. Inshallah. Yalla, tafadhal, Sheikh. Do you have the question?
So the question of the sister is,
Uh-huh.
how can you make dawah with your non-Muslim parents who are not religious or interested into religion?
How can you give da'wah to your non-Muslim parents who are not religious and not interested in religion? First of all, the greatest form of da'wah, it is through your character and your conduct. The way you conduct yourself, it has a greater effect on people than what you say. The Prophet ﷺ, he had a Jewish neighbor for many years in Medina, right? Years later, that Jewish neighbor fell ill, right? He fell ill. And when he fell ill, he was on his deathbed, the child, he was on his deathbed, the son. So the Prophet ﷺ came to visit the son in the house who was on his deathbed, who was about to die, to call him to Islam. The Prophet ﷺ comes to him, the son is on his bed, and the father is standing above him, and the Prophet ﷺ is there, and the Prophet ﷺ tells him, embrace Islam. That's what he said to him. He told him, embrace Islam. The son looks at his father. The father says to him, Ati' Abul Qasim. He told him, obey the Prophet ﷺ. Then he embraced Islam and he died. Ajib. Yani, in that moment, the Prophet ﷺ did not present to him the beauty of Islam. He didn't convince him that Islam is a true religion that he must embrace and so on. All he told him was, embrace Islam, and he embraced Islam. Why? Because those years that they were neighbors of the Prophet ﷺ, they saw Islam in the Prophet ﷺ, which was sufficient for them to accept Islam. Your character, your conduct, it is the greatest form of da'wah, especially when it comes to your family and to your parents. Before you say anything to them, they should see that your Islam has changed you. It has made you better. It has made you better towards them, that you treated them better, and so on. And then, whilst you're doing that, every time they notice these good things in you, use it as an opportunity to tell them that this is what Islam commands me to do. Islam tells me that I need to be the best to my parents. Islam tells me that I need to go out of my way to do acts of kindness to my parents. Islam tells me that I do not displease my parents, that the anger of Allah lies in the anger of my parents. If my parents are angry with me, Allah is angry with me. That I must do everything to please these two people because they're the most important human beings on the face of the earth to me. Because Islam teaches me that. When the individual hears that, especially in the societies that we live in, would disrespect their parents and oppress their parents and harm their parents, they're going to think, wow, this is something different, it must be the truth. Right? That's one way of going about it, and of course make a lot of dua for them. Now, yes. Finally, huh? La, your English is fine. Sorry for my bad German. Sorry?
Non-Muslim friends.
Uh-huh.
My question is, how can I chill with them without that my heart influence them?
How can I
Chill with them, hang out.
chill with them? If you listen to too much slang, huh? If you learn slang, your English is not going to get better. How can you spend time with them without that influencing your heart, right? Your English is perfect. I don't know why you said English is bad. The answer to that is as follows, that spending time with the non-Muslims is not recommended in the first place. It's not recommended in the first place to spend a lot of time with them. It's not recommended. As I said earlier on, that the only time you should be spending time with them is when there's a need. For instance, you're at work, so you're forced to. You're at school, so you're forced to. Right? That's limited time, it's a necessary situation. But you going out your way to spend time with them should only be for one purpose, which is to call them to Islam. You're calling to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. You're trying to influence them to the path of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. But if you spending time with them and spending that time with them which you have chosen is going to have negative influence on you, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're not meant to do that. No. Wallahu a'lam. Now the third one. Go ahead.
First of all, barakallahu feekum for everyone to organize that you came over. So my point would be that a lot of people, they try to run away from the responsibilities, and a lot of brothers of mine, they want to do hijrah because they don't feel comfortable in this country, especially the West. But I believe in that we need pioneers and we need leaders in this country for the next generations. Because I have been to Australia and I saw a lot of beautiful brothers, Allah Mubarak, and great scholars. And we do have a lack of scholars here, we do have a lack of pioneers and leaders. So can you please motivate the brothers to stay in this country and maybe to change the country instead of going back to a Muslim country?
The question was that there are many people who are living in Germany, for instance, and they want to migrate and they want to leave and move to a Muslim majority country where they want to safeguard their religion and protect themselves from perhaps the fitna that they face here in Germany. And would we recommend that the individual that they do that, or would we recommend them to stay and to establish things here for the Muslims in Germany and to be pioneers for the Muslims here in Germany, to help them practice their religion freely, to help them and protect them or help protect themselves from the fitna that surround them? And the answer to that question is that it depends. There's not one answer to that. It depends. Not everyone can be asked to be pioneers who are going to be serving the community and going to be establishing things for the community. But I do recommend that, and I do encourage that. I come from the UK. The UK is very different to Germany, from what I've observed, in terms of how Islam is. In the UK, the Muslims, they have a lot of organizations, they have a lot of institutions, they have a lot of centers where they can come that serve the Muslims on a huge scale. Now, do you know that the Muslims in the UK are a lot less than the Muslims in Germany? There are a lot more Muslims here in Germany than the UK. There's only almost 4 million Muslims in the UK when there's around 6 million or perhaps more in Germany, right? But due to the Muslims in the UK establishing these organizations and setting something up for the Muslims there, and most importantly, educating them. In the UK, we have many centers for education. We have institutes that teach the Islamic science, that teach the Qur'an, Arabic, Islamic sciences, that teach, we have Islamic universities in the UK that one can go to and learn a degree of the deen from academics who are qualified, who are professors and who have PhDs in Sharia, right? One can find that in the UK, has access to it. Why is that? Did it just happen because it just appeared out of nowhere? No, it's because the Muslims in the UK, they use the system in their favor. Because the struggles that you have here as Muslims is present in the UK. The UK is not much different to the struggles and the difficulties that Muslims they face. It's pretty much the same. But it's about how you react and how you behave. When there's an obstacle placed in front of you, are you going to say, I give up, or are you going to try another way? Because what the obstacles that you face here in Germany, and that I've been told about since I come here, they existed with us. About 10 years ago, when there was a huge political crisis happening with the Muslims, and so many Muslims, they went elsewhere where they weren't meant to go, and that caused trouble for the Muslims living in the West. We had the same issue in the UK too, right? Certain Muslims were targeted by the government, for instance, which perhaps happens in Germany. But did that cause the Muslims to stop and say, you know what, now we are afraid, we are fearful, we're not going to do anything? No. They said we're going to carry on, we're going to persevere, and we're going to put our trust in Allah Ta'ala. And now the da'wah, or the da'wah in the UK is flourishing due to that. Flourishing. You can do the exact same here in Germany. I believe that 100%. You know, I met certain people here and they were telling me about some of the situation in Germany, and they were just listening to me problems, and listing one problem after this, and we have this problem, and there was no one who listed even or mentioned one solution that they have in mind what they're prepared to do. It's all about the mindset. If you are to list problems, we could be here all day, because problems never end. But how many solutions do you have to those problems that you are prepared to start, that you're prepared to take a step to do, right? If everyone relies on the other person and says, you know what, I'm going to wait for them to do it, then nothing will ever get started. Nothing will ever get started. Every single one of us, Allah Ta'ala has given gifts and talents and certain strengths. Use your strengths, your talents, your knowledge, your ability, within your capacity to serve the religion of Allah Ta'ala within the law and the guidelines that you're given here in this country. Because I do not believe that you are being restricted to do anything, but we are restricting ourselves. I believe the Muslims are restricting themselves and they think we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do that. If you say can't, then you never will. Right? I do not believe in impossible. I don't believe in impossible. Because even impossible, if you put your apostrophe, it says I'm possible. Right? I don't believe in it. And there's no impossible when it comes to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. One who has Allah, who puts his faith and trust in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, who strives and does his best, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will help you. If you look at history throughout time, that's always been the case. So what makes you think that I can't? Don't ever despair. Do what you can. Establish something for your fellow Muslims. Places that you can learn. Places that you can educate yourselves. So that you are positive, proactive contributors to your society here. Because I believe when you do that, the German society is going to be grateful. When Muslims are proper Muslims who are positive contributors to society, the non-Muslims are going to be grateful. I visit a lot of universities in the UK. I went to the largest university in the UK that has the biggest Islamic society. I don't know if you guys have that in universities here, which I highly doubt. You do, huh?
It's like forces, yeah.
Like the forces of Germany.
Right.
MashaAllah.
So later on, inshallah, we can talk about that.
Inshallah. So I visit a lot of universities. So I went to University of Manchester. And look at this, they have something called every year a welcome dinner for all the Muslim students. It's a big event. Maybe over 1,000 people attend. Right? All of them are students of the university. Right? The Chancellor of the university, he comes every year. The Chancellor of the university. And what does he do? He delivers a speech talking about how the Muslims are one of the most proudest society universities proud of. Why? Because of their positive effect that they've had on the university. The university prides itself for the Islamic society. When I heard that, I was shocked. Why? Because the Muslims, they organize themselves and they believe that when they put all their talents together, they can make a difference. And they made a difference. You know that Islamic society in the University of Manchester, they don't have a small prayer space. They have a masjid they pray. It's bigger than this place. It's 2 floors. They pray all 5 daily prayers there. They pray Jumu'ah there. They pray everything there. They have so many things they have access to. And that's not only there, many universities in the UK. Right? Why? Because the Muslims, they took that initiative. It's all about taking that first step, initiating it. When the non-Muslims see that you are initiating something and you're trying to establish something for your Muslims, your fellow Muslims, it may be difficult at the beginning. There may be certain obstacles at the beginning, but eventually you shall get there. As for the matter of hijrah and migrating, well, if you think that I'm extremely going to be negatively impacted here and I cannot reside here because I cannot protect myself or my family from the fitna and so on, then saving yourself, that's a matter that it's recommended and required if you have the ability to do so. But also creating an environment for yourself where you can freely practice the religion of Allah Ta'ala for the time being, it's essential. And for the later generations that are going to come. Because whether we like it or not, 6 million Muslims who live in Germany are not going to all get up and leave at once. There are going to be certain Muslims going to remain here even if you do leave. Establish something for them here, even if you do leave, let it carry on so that they benefit from it and their deen is protected for them. Have that mindset. Not I just go and that's it. Even if you're planning to go, do something for the Muslims before you go. Wallahu a'lam. Wa jazakumullahu khairan.
The sisters say we are always in the back and we still only one question. They have one more question to say.
Do you think? I think it's extremely fair that we give the sisters another question because they're not here. Right? We didn't even allow them to come. So at least the least we can do is allow them to ask one more question. Otherwise, they're going to be getting off a qiyamul layl and making dua against us. And the dua of the sisters is dangerous. So I don't want to get to their bad side. Tafaddal.
Okay. How to grow your Muslim kids in a proper Islamic way, not always in the world filled with agendas like LGBTQ, celebrations, and specific days like birthdays and so on? I think this is a really important question for the
question.
also.
It's a very good question. The question is that how do you nurture your children upon Islam whilst they're surrounded by different agendas that are contrary to Islam, like the LGBTQYZ agenda, and also all these different celebrations, festivals that are not festivals that Islam approves. The answer to that is that it links to the question that I just answered now. That as Muslims you have to be proactive, you have to be those who do things for the Muslims, who provide spaces and places for the Muslims to have that tarbiyah, to nurture the children correctly, to have places that they can be educated, and so on. That's essential for the Muslims, right? Because if you do not do that, then you are going to be facing these agendas. And that's why, especially the sisters are the future of our ummah. The future of our ummah depends on our sisters. More than anyone else. If our sisters are lost, our ummah has been lost. But if our sisters are upright and they're righteous and they are knowledgeable regarding their deen, and that's why I'm encouraging the sisters that they must learn the deen of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. They are going to raise the next generation. They are going to be the mothers of the next generation. All those who are successful in our history, in our heritage, amongst the Muslims, the greatest scholars, behind them were great mothers who raised them upon righteousness. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was an orphan. His mother is the one who encouraged him to seek knowledge, and used to take him in the darkness of Salat al-Fajr so that he attends Salat al-Fajr Jama'ah. Imam al-Shafi'i, his mother is the one who took him to the scholars to learn. She is the one who took him from Mecca to Medina to Imam Malik ibn Anas to learn. A mother taken a long journey on horseback, difficult back then. All of those giants who lived were raised by righteous mothers who are knowledgeable, who knew that the future of the ummah is in their hands. And they took the responsibility extremely seriously. Do not be deluded and do not be misguided by those who misguide you with the feminist ideology, who try to tell you that motherhood, it's a low status for a woman. There's no greater honor than motherhood. It's the innate natural desire of a woman to be a mother. That's what Allah created her with. How can you try to convince her that being a mother and raising children is something that she doesn't want, which is something that she desires naturally? Allah created her to desire. But the feminist agenda is teaching you that forget that, focus on your career, focus on working, go leave this family and all this stuff and abandon it, forget about it, and focus on bettering yourself. Individualism, only care about yourself, don't care about anyone else. Islam does not teach us individualism. Islam teaches us to be concerned about our fellow Muslims, to be concerned about our families, to be concerned about our children, to care about our parents, and that we do what we can to benefit them all. Rather, we are responsible for them, and we shall be questioned about those who we are responsible for, especially your children. So no doubt that sometimes you have to take severe measures. In the UK, we have the same problem. Certain parents are now taking their children out of school and homeschooling them. If you're able to do that, do that. If it's going to protect your children from this agenda. If it's not allowed in Germany, then that's your problem. You know, when the Muslims are united, anything can be allowed. There's no such thing as not allowed. If the Muslims were united and they had a strong front and they stood up for themselves, there will be no such thing as not allowed. But if you have the defeat mentality that, oh, it's not allowed, khalas, we'll sit back. You can make it allowed. Every day they make new legislation, right? Legislation can change. Wallah.
Okay, the last thing that they say.
Are you allowing it?
But there's only one thing, to tell the husbands to support the wives more in learning Islam.
100%.
And
If
can
the
you
husband
say
is
to the
not-
husband something to for that too?
Is that your wife on the phone?
No. That was a good one. Not on the sheet. Yeah, but she's
Saying, give him advice. I'm joking.
No, Sheikh, wallah, when it's me, I will ask you, give me an advice.
Of
Sheikh,
course,
what can I do?
of course. Supporting your wives and supporting your sisters and your mothers in learning the religion of Allah Ta'ala is essential. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to say to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد Allah. Do not prevent the female servants of Allah Ta'ala from coming to the houses of Allah Ta'ala where they will learn their religion and so on. Do not prevent them from doing so. Do not keep them hostage in the home. La, allow them to learn the deen. Actually encourage them. Don't only allow them, encourage them. Be their supporter. That who supported them in doing so. When they need help with learning and they have certain classes, you need to be that understanding husband who helps her with the house and helps her with the children, for instance, and takes care of them so that she can go learn. Because that's only going to benefit your household. She's going to teach your children, that's what you learn. But if you just expect her to sit at home and to be ignorant, then how do you expect to save your children? Because you're working full time. You're not spending time with the children. So who's going to spend the most time with the children? It's going to be the mother. If the mother does not have that education and that knowledge to impart onto the children, then your children will not get that tarbiyah that they need. Having educated mothers, it's essential. From the greatest scholars that we have in our heritage is Ummuna Aisha, our mother Aisha, radiallahu anha, who the Sahaba would come to and learn from. They would sit in front of her and learn behind a veil. She would teach them. Because we, in our heritage, in our religion, we do not see any shame from a man learning from a woman. There's no shame in that. She possesses more knowledge than him. He goes and seeks that knowledge from her. The Sahaba would do that. The Tabi'een would do that. There was a Tabi'i, he used to come to Aisha radiallahu anha on a regular basis. She would teach him. And then she would tell him, go and implement what I taught you. One day he came back earlier than he usually would. And then she said to him, have you implemented that which I taught you? He said, no. So she said, فَلِمَاذَا تُكْثِرُ حُجَجَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكِ? Why are you increasing the evidences of Allah against yourself? She's even teaching him tarbiyah. That you need to implement that which you're doing. That is when you have alimat, those who have knowledge. That's the effect that they have on the ummah. She's from the most narrators of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Her and Salama, radiyallahu anha. And Salama, who did she produce? Who did Salama produce, radiyallahu anha? Who was raised in her house? Al-Hasan al-Basri. Did you guys know that? Al-Hasan al-Basri, Tabi' al-Jalil, he was raised in the house of Salama in Medina before he moved to Iraq. Where do you think he got all that knowledge from? Salama radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? You have others like Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhuma. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who did he learn most of the knowledge from? Ummuna Aisha radiallahu anha. Right? Because she was his aunt, his mother's sister. Right? He was staying at home and he was learning from her. Urwa ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu warḍah wa rahimahu, from the Tabi'een. He would learn from Aisha radiallahu anha. And he became from the greatest scholars of the Tabi'een and others. Right? The Prophet ﷺ would dedicate time to teaching the women. He would dedicate certain time to teaching the women because of how important it is. And he never felt any shame in doing so. So I highly encourage the brothers to encourage their sisters, their mothers, their wives and so on to learn, because feminism is plaguing the minds of our sisters. It's plaguing the minds of our sisters. Even those who appear practicing have elements of feminism in their minds and they've adopted it. The only way that can be combated is with the true way of life, which is Islam and knowledge. So I highly encourage us to do that. Wallahu a'lam.